All right, so I'm going to talk about a movie that I saw 2 nights ago by my all-time favorite. It's my favorite movie of my all-time favorite directors, M. Night Shyamalan, his second debut feature, called Unbreakable. I love Unbreakable so much because when I got into movies, it was because of superhero movies specifically. I remember I watched this one page where it was like talking all about like the best superhero movies, and I would literally watch anything that guy said was good. There was a superhero movie, and he brought up Unbreakable, and I was like, all right. That was before I even knew who M. Night Shyamalan was. And then later on, I found out more about who M. Night was, and I saw The Sixth Sense, and later on I saw Signs, and loved all of those things. I saw The Village, and I really liked The Village. And I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta see every M. Night Shyamalan movie. And then I watched Lady in the Water, The Happening, Last Airbender, after, and I was like, oh no. So, but regardless, this is the pinnacle of his filmmaking. One thing this is timely to talk about is when Split came out, and at the end, spoilers, Bruce Willis turned out to be in the diner, and the world that they're living in, that the Horde is living in, is the same world that Bruce Willis and Mr. Glass is living in. And Bruce Willis goes, his name is Mr. Glass, and they play like the Unbreakable theme song. I've never had more of a jaw-dropping moment in my life. You can ask. I went with Nick and Noah and Jake, and you can ask them. I had a seizure straight up when that happened. They actually thought something was wrong with me, and it was so crazy because a surprise sequel to a movie that came out 16 years ago by a director who's not that popular right now, and who is like just now starting to pick himself back up from his shit movies, and his movie that barely made any money is the one he's making a sequel to. Now, if you know anything about Unbreakable, you know that this makes sense. You know that M. Night Shyamalan, this movie is slow. I get it if someone says that, but it's slow because it's only 1/3 of a movie. It's the first act of a 3-act superhero film, and he threw out the last 2 acts because he wasn't feeling them. So when you see that there's gonna be a sequel to Unbreakable, you're like, I get it. I completely get it. But that doesn't mean that Unbreakable's not a great movie. It's slow, but that you get so much more attached to everyone involved. Every single character you connect with and feel for. I mean, at least I do. Bruce Willis is great in this movie. Sam Jackson is fantastic, honestly. He steals this movie. Robin Wright is great. Macaulay Culkin's older brother, I think. Is that him? I don't know, but the kid is awesome in this movie. This is such a classic M. Night Shyamalan movie where it's funny for unconventional reasons. It's got a great twist at the end. It's really well shot. I think that's my favorite part about this movie. It's not even the writing, it's how it's shot. Mr. Glass, every single, most of the times that you see him, you see him in the reflection of glass. When he's born, there's the beautiful shot, reflection in the mirror shot. That is amazing. It's an amazing scene in general. When you see him, when his mom comes up to him at the beginning, when he's in the wheelchair, it's because you see him through the reflection of the window, and you see him later through the reflection of the painting, and when he falls down, his cane bursts into millions of pieces because it's made of glass. And I love how at the end, spoilers, at the end he's like, I should have known because of the kids. They call me Mr. Glass, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so good, because he's like a supervillain, and it's this deranged maniac who's so has lost reality so much that he's built up this fantasy that he is important in the way that makes him the villain, which is crazy. Sam Jackson's the best part about this movie. Bruce Willis is great. Now his whole hero's journey is nice and everything. But the real great part about this movie is Sam Jackson. He is one of the greatest villains of all time, I would say. he steals every scene that he's in. It's just fantastic. Everything about his character is fantastic. And, like, you see him, like, slowly piece together, like, the mysteries behind, like, the whole, like, football, like, the car accident was just so he could get a football, and how he drowned when he was younger, and that's his, like, what's it called? That's his kryptonite, and all this other stuff. Like, it's so, it fits together so well. This movie is so cohesive and tightly knit together, and I love it so much. And it's a love letter to comic book superheroes. And I love comic book superheroes, so of course I'd sit here and adore this movie. What else do I have to say about this? This movie's so tense. It's so sad. It's so, like, depressing to me. My favorite scene in this movie, besides the ending, which of course everyone likes the ending, which is also a great twist, because you're not really looking for a twist. It's not like, oh, who's the killer? Who done it? You know, you're just like, they're just like, yeah, there's been a bunch of disasters that happened, and, you know, whatever. And he talks about them, like, I realize, like, in the movie that Sam Jackson talks about them, like, throughout, and, like, you know, like, they're all, like, cohesive, like, which now I should have thought about that. And also I noticed that everything that, like, Sam Jackson has is purple. The letter that he gives to Bruce Willis has purple on the inside. He wears purple. The present that his mom gets him is purple. Speaking of the present, that's my favorite scene. When he's sitting there staring out the window, and his mom's like, you gotta go, you can't sit in here all day. And he's like, Mom, I'm not gonna go out there and hurt myself again. And she's like, you gotta. And, like, she's like, I got a present for you. And, like, she's such an awesome mom. Like, she's so nice to this, like, little kid. And, like, he goes out there and, like, opens it up, and it's a beautiful 360 shot of the comic book. And, like, after he opens the present. And his mom comes out there, and he's like, I got a whole bunch of them waiting out here for you. And like, then she goes, I hear this one has a surprise ending. That is one of my all-time favorite lines in any movie. Because the self-awareness, the balls that M. Night Shyamalan had to have to include that line is fantastic. M. Night Shyamalan, who is known for his twist endings, he has the greatest twist ending of all time in The Sixth Sense. And this movie had a surprise ending too. Like, and, like, comic books usually have surprise endings, and, you know, like, Sam Jackson was gonna be the reason there was a surprise ending. Oh, it's just so great. And it was meta too. That's the best part. It's meta. It's so brilliant. I love that movie. It's so sweet. That's such a gorgeous scene. I love the little like small things that you like, ways that you can find out that, like, Robin Wright and Bruce Willis. Like, I never noticed that, like, at the end of the movie, and their story is capped off by, like, he has a nightmare. He wakes up at night and has a nightmare, and it wakes her up, and she, like, tells him everything's gonna be okay. What he said earlier in the movie is when he lost hope is when, you know, he didn't wake up and didn't do that. And I'm like, that is so fantastic. Like, this movie is amazing. I don't think that the sequel is gonna be as good. I'm so excited for the sequel, but honestly. But yeah, because this is my favorite movie of M. Night Shyamalan, and I don't see how you can make a better movie than Unbreakable. But then again, this is only the first act, and I'm kind of scared because he said the second two acts he wasn't feeling as much, so, like, what changed? But, like, you know, probably something changed, you know, and, like, he probably found it, or else because I don't think he would be making this, like, no one's forcing him to make this movie, so if he's making this movie, it's because he has a good idea. Definitely 5 out of 5, that's obvious. This movie is fantastic. This movie is a triumph. This movie is one of the greatest superhero movies, if not one of the greatest movies of all time. I love M. Night Shyamalan. I love this movie. I watch it once a year, and it makes me so happy. And I'm so excited for Glass. All right, bye.